The last photograph my mother ever took was of a woman I had never seen before. I found it 2 days after her funeral. At first, I almost threw it away. It was an ordinary photograph. My mother was standing in her kitchen, smiling at the camera. But behind her, reflected in the dark window, was a woman. A woman who looked directly at the camera. And there was something about her face that made my blood run cold. Because she looked exactly like me. My name is Claire. And my mother had been dead for 4 days when I found the photograph. She had been sick for almost a year. During those months, she changed. She became quieter, more nervous. Sometimes I would catch her staring out the window for no reason. Whenever I asked what was wrong, she would simply say, "I'm fine, sweetheart." But she wasn't. I knew she wasn't. A few weeks before she died, she asked me something strange. "Claire, if something happens to me, promise me you won't open the locked drawer in my bedroom." I laughed. I thought she was joking. "What locked drawer?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Exactly." I didn't understand what she meant. And I didn't ask again. Until she died. After the funeral, I stayed at her house. I couldn't bring myself to leave. Every room reminded me of her. Her coffee cup was still beside the sink. Her coat was hanging behind the door. Her reading glasses were sitting on the table. It felt like she might walk into the room at any moment. On the second evening, I decided to go through her old photographs. I found albums I hadn't seen since childhood. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, school plays, family vacations. Then I found a small envelope. There was no writing on it. Inside was one photograph. My mother was standing in the kitchen. The picture looked recent, maybe only a few weeks old. I stared at it. Something felt wrong. I couldn't explain why. Then I noticed the window behind her. It was dark outside, and reflected in the glass was a woman. She was standing several feet behind my mother. She had long dark hair, a pale face, and the same small scar above her eyebrow that I had. My scar. The one I had gotten when I was 8 years old after falling off my bicycle. I held the photograph closer. The woman had my eyes, my nose, even the same crooked smile. It was as if I were looking at myself, only older. I turned the photograph over. On the back, my mother's handwriting said, "I should have told you the truth." I barely slept that night. The next morning, I called my Aunt Takuma. She was my mother's older sister. I sent her a picture of the photograph. She didn't answer for several minutes. Then she called me. Her voice sounded different. "Where did you find that?" "In Mom's room." "Claire, listen to me carefully." She paused. "Don't ask questions about that woman." I felt a chill. "Why?" "Because your mother spent 30 years trying to forget her." "Who is she?" My aunt didn't answer. "Please," I said. "I deserve to know." Finally, she whispered. "Her name was Emily." I waited. "And she was your mother's daughter." I stopped breathing. "What?" My aunt began crying. "Emily was born 3 years before you." I couldn't speak. "My mother had another daughter." "Yes." "Where is she?" Another long silence. Then my aunt said, "That's the problem." That afternoon, I opened the locked drawer. I knew my mother had told me not to. But after what my aunt had said, I couldn't stop myself. The drawer was hidden behind a panel in the bottom of her closet. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to the same person, Emily, the oldest. Letter was dated 31 years ago. I opened it. Emily, Messi. I wasn't strong enough to protect you. I opened another. Dear Emily, your sister was born today. Her name is Claire. I wish you could meet her. Another. Emily, please forgive me. Then another. Emily, I saw you today. You were standing across the street. I know you hate me, but I need you to understand why I did what I did. My hands were shaking. What had my mother done? I kept searching. At the bottom of the drawer was a newspaper clipping. The headline made my stomach turn. Local girl, age 6, reported missing. The date was 30 years ago. The girl was named Emily Carter. My mother's maiden name was Carter. I read the article. Emily had disappeared from a shopping center. No body was ever found. No suspect was arrested. My mother had never told anyone she had a missing daughter. Even me. There was one final letter. It was written only 6 months before my mother died. Emily, if you are reading this, then you finally found your way back. I'm sorry it took me so long. Your sister doesn't know anything. She believes you disappeared. She believes I lost you. But the truth is much worse. I was the reason you disappeared. I dropped the letter. My heart was pounding. I read the last page. I thought I was protecting you. I was wrong. Your father had already decided what he was going to do. I had 2 choices. Give him Emily, or give him Claire. I chose Emily, and I have regretted it every day since. I couldn't understand. My father, he had died when I was very young. What did he have to do with Emily disappearing? I read the final sentence. If she comes back, don't let her meet Claire. I didn't know what to do. I called my aunt again. This time, she answered immediately. Did you open the drawer? Yes. Scheisse. Then you know. Know what? Your father wasn't the man you thought he was. So, she told me my father had been involved with dangerous people. He owed them money. A lot of money. When he couldn't pay, they threatened our family. My mother believed they would take one of us. She thought she could protect me by sending Emily away. But she never sent her away. Emily disappeared. My mother spent years believing she was dead. Until one day, Emily came back. 30 years later. And that's when my mother's behavior changed. The nervousness, the locked drawer, the fear. Everything suddenly made sense. But there was one thing I still couldn't understand. The photograph. Who took that picture? I asked. My aunt went silent. Clyde. Who took it? I don't know. Was Emily there? Yes. My heart raced. When? 3 weeks before your mother died. I stared at the photograph. 3 weeks. My mother had known Emily was alive, and she had never told me. That night, Someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Nobody knew I was staying there. I walked toward the front door. Another knock. I looked through the window. Nobody. I opened the door. There was a small envelope on the floor. My name was written on it. Clyde. I opened it. Inside was a single photograph. It showed 2 little girls. One was me. The other was Emily. We were sitting together on a wooden bench. I stared at the picture. I didn't remember it. But on the back was a message. Asterisk, you don't remember me. But I remember you. Asterisk, asterisk. Underneath was an address. And 1 sentence. Come alone. I drove there the next morning. The address belonged to an old apartment building on the other side of town. I walked upstairs. Apartment 14. I knocked. The door opened. And there she was. The woman from the photograph. Emily. She looked older than I expected. But there was no doubt. She had my face. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled. Not a happy smile. I said, Juan, you really don't remember me. I shook my head. She stepped aside. Coming. The apartment was almost empty. There were photographs everywhere. Photographs of me. At school. At immigration. Getting my first job. Walking with my friends. Even photographs from recent years. I turned toward her. You've been watching me. She nodded. All my life. Why? Because you're my sister. I felt tears in my eyes. Why didn't you come to me? She looked down. Because Mom asked me not to. Why? Because she was afraid of what I would tell you. What? Emily walked to a drawer. She pulled out a small box. Inside was a cassette tape. Old. Dusty. She handed it to me. Listen. I found an old cassette player in the apartment. The tape began with static. Then I heard my mother's voice. She sounded young, terrified. If you're hearing this, then I didn't have the courage to tell you myself. I looked at Emily. My mother's voice continued. Claire, your father didn't abandon us. I froze. He was killed. My hands went cold. He was killed because of something he did. But before he died, he made one final decision. He wanted to take Claire and leave. I couldn't let him. Because I knew he was going to tell her the truth about Emily. I looked at Emily. She was crying. My mother's voice continued. Emily wasn't kidnapped. I gave her away. I covered my mouth. I sent her to my sister because I believed it was the only way to save her. But Clyde, there's something I never told you. Your father wasn't Emily's father. The tape stopped. Silence. I stared at Emily. What does that mean? She wiped her eyes. It means we have the same mother, but we don't have the same father. I couldn't understand. Then why did Mom say she had to choose between us? Emily looked at me. Because your father knew I wasn't his daughter. My stomach dropped. What? He believed my biological father was still alive, and he wanted to find him. I stood up. Who was he? Emily didn't answer. Instead, she handed me another photograph. Looked at it. It was my mother. standing beside a man I had never seen before. And behind them was a little girl, Emily. The man had his hand on my mother's shoulder. I turned the photograph over. There was one sentence written on the back. The truth about Emily's father is buried with him. I looked at Emily. Who is this man? She whispered, Your father. I shook my head. That's impossible. She pointed at the photograph. No, that's not your father. I looked again. Then I noticed something. The man in the photograph had the same eyes as Emily, the same eyes as me. I stared at the picture, and Emily finally said the words that changed everything. That's our father. I couldn't breathe. Our real father. For 30 years, my mother had hidden the truth. She had told me my father was the man who raised me. But he wasn't. The man in the photograph was my biological father, and he hadn't disappeared. He had been murdered. Emily had spent decades searching for the truth, and my mother had spent decades trying to bury it. But there was one question left. Why did Mom tell me none of this? Emily looked at me. Because she was afraid you'd find out what she did. What did she do? Emily reached into the box again. This time, she pulled out a final letter. It was addressed to me. I opened it. Only one sentence was written inside. Asterisk, Claire, I didn't hide Emily from you. I hid you from Emily. Asterisk, asterisk. I looked up. Emily was standing by the window. And suddenly, she said something I will never forget. Your mother was afraid of me. Why? Emily turned around. Because I know who killed our father. My heart stopped. She looked directly into my eyes. Then she sighed. Your mother. I couldn't move. Emily continued. And she knew that one day I would come back for the truth. That was the moment I finally understood why my mother had been afraid until the day she died. She wasn't afraid that I would discover her secret. She was afraid that Emily would tell me the truth.